Hello friends, Jenkins Dota here, bringing you another Dota 2 video on behalf of DotaAlchemy.com, and in this video I want to show you a few plays made by Team Secret versus VG Gaming, where I think it demonstrates beautifully that one of the largest things that differentiates Tier 1 teams from Tier 2 teams in Dota is the fact that Tier 1 teams, if you give them a little bit of an advantage, they will take the absolute most amount of resources off of the map that are possible in the game, and a Tier 2 team won't. So a lot of the time, these Tier 1 teams and these Tier 2 teams will make the exact same plays in a given scenario in a game, because when you're a high-level Dota player, you usually understand we have a net worth lead, we need to take objectives. It's pretty flowcharty, but what differentiates these guys is the fact that these Tier 1 players will understand their strengths and how much they can get off of something, a gank, a tower, off of a one-team fight. So essentially, this is one of those things, you play against a Tier 1 team, it feels like you lose 2 fights and they obliterate you. And this is why, in my opinion. So without further ado, let's just get right into the plays. So here we have the first play that I want to check out. This is a play made by Secret. They essentially knew that Chronosphere was just used. They just picked up an Aegis on the Terrorblade. They have a 7k gold lead and they want to secure this mid lane Tier 2. So pretty obvious play. You want to secure an objective. You don't want to just run at it face first, so you take a smoke. Like I said, Tier 2 teams, even Tier 3 teams would smoke at this time as well. So we're going to be on Yapsor's player perspective on the Tiny because he's the initiator. So we see the smoke up. They don't run immediately at the Invoker. Once again, this is something that probably Tier 2 teams would do as well. They see the Faceless Void walk up the hill after killing the Ancients. They know he has no Chrono, so they really want to fight this. Ping come out. Maybe he's at this camp. They're going to use the Kunkka Torrent for vision. So they use it for vision. They see that he's not there. It's already farmed, so they can walk up here without breaking their smoke. Once again, at this point, nothing really differentiates the Tier 1 teams from Tier 2 teams. These are just high-level, mechanically skilled Dota plays. So you see Paparazzi here. And here is where things change. Here is where Team Secret knows that they're about to get so much off of this gank that they weren't necessarily anticipating. So blink on him, use the Avalanche, toss him back to the team. He's screwed. There's really nothing that he can do. And that is the most important pick-off that they could have gotten. And the reason for that, and this is one of the things, like I said, that a Tier 2 team may not make this judgment call in the game because it's something that requires you to have a pretty good understanding of your draft, their draft, and your advantage. So essentially, given the fact that there is an Axe, he doesn't have a Blade Mail, he has the most farmed, I believe, core on the Dire side. So most farm core on the Dire side. Invoker's pretty farmed, but, you know, Axe is doing a little bit better than him. And then we have Faceless Void, who at this point, it's 18 minutes and he doesn't really do that much damage. The supports are Silencer and Phoenix, who is in Fog here. And really the majority of damage comes from the Invoker in the fights. So basically, it doesn't matter that the Invoker's not ultra super farmed. It's more that in the draft that VG Gaming has, Invoker is very, very important. So Secret, they understand this. They know that this is going to give them a lot and that they're going to press their advantage right now because of this. Once again, it's a hard judgment call to make in the game because you could make a call to, okay, let's go high ground or something like that, and then you get wiped, and all of a sudden, you're not pressing your advantage. You're losing your advantage. But in any case, we can watch here. So they get the pick off. They have Terrorblade siege the mid lane tower. Obviously, there's no point in anybody else hitting it because Terrorblade does enough damage himself. Xayah's on the bot lane, just kind of doing garbage control on the lanes. They see a Phoenix down there. They don't know if VG is going to defend, so they're positioning up on the high ground. They see Xayah gets gone on, and then that's when all of Secret runs down the hill. And that's a really important factor. So there's 2 factors here. Number 1, we know the Invoker is dead if we're Team Secret, and Invoker does all of the damage. Number 2, we see the entire enemy team on the bot lane going on Xayah. So Xayah is dying. So it's technically a 4v4, and yet Team Secret decides they want to go high ground in a 4v4. You can see the pings come out. So this, in my opinion, is where a Tier 2 team would back off. Because Invoker's about to respawn, Xayah just died, it's a 4v4, but you're pushing high ground, so it's a lot harder for you. And they don't back off. They know they can get a lot because essentially when the enemy team is showing on the map somewhere, you know that if you go to the high ground, you position well enough, you're going to get vision of them as they're TPing in. So you can completely stagger and ruin their initiation. They're not going to be able to get set up. And you can kind of assess as you're hitting the tower with your tower hitter, which Terrorblade, by the way, standing on the left side over here, and then the other heroes, you can see that they're nicely spread. So they want their tower hitter to just hit, and then other heroes essentially getting vision of the enemy heroes coming in so they can assess the situation. And maybe they'll back, maybe they won't, but it's a really hard call to make because you can get wiped doing this. So you can see the mid one runs in here and he X's the axe. Do you think he thinks he can kill Yang on this axe? Absolutely not. There's no way he kills this axe. Axe is super tanky. It's just mid one. Yapsor might go in, but really between these two, they don't do any damage. It's the Terrorblade that does damage. What they're looking to do though is they're trying to just distract the initiator, the most important hero. You know, maybe the Void can initiate too. I believe Chronos down for a little bit, but they're literally just looking to screw around with him. So he tosses to Puppy and not to mid one. And then he throws the boat out too. Like, they're literally just trying to use spells while Terrorblade hits the tower. The moment Invoker comes up, boom, they're back. And the thing is, that was like 10, 20 seconds where they were hitting the tower where a tier 2 team would have backed. But look what happened here. So we'll go ahead and put the fog on both teams. So this tower is at 408 HP, and if this is a tier 2 team, that's not at 408 HP. Sure, the tier 2 team, they will get a lot off the map by backing off at the point that I said they would back off. They will farm better, but they won't have this tower so low. If Secret wins a single fight, they take mid-racks, maybe even throne, because they did this. And then, arguably more importantly, we have the entire Vici squad in this mid lane. So there's no split pushing happening on the waves. There's no farming happening on the map. So Team Secret essentially has this ability to choose whatever the hell they want to do on the map. And they're not going to be contested in their next move because they forced the entire enemy team back by going high ground. And it seems like it might be a small play, but that's only because we have the God mode view as spectators. It's insane. The amount of risk in going high ground in a 4v4 and committing that hard is it's very, very risky, or it seems very risky. And in pubs, that's a lot of the time where you'll get wiped and then you'll lose your advantage and then you'll just have this enemy team coming back on you and you're just screwed. But Team Secret, they knew what they can get away with, and they played in a way with Kunkka going in, with Tiny going in just to distract Terrorblade standing on the left, the distracting hero standing on the right, where essentially they knew they could get more off of that, assuming that they played it well enough.
So the next play that I want to talk about is essentially a follow-up play in some regard to the previous play where Team Secret takes a lot because of the advantage that they took given that first pickoff. And yeah, for those of you who are wondering, I did switch mics halfway through the video. I hope this one sounds better. It's more expensive, and it's Moon Ducks, so I decided to, veto it. Anyway, so we have on the mid lane here, Team Secret, chilling out. They see Silencer dewarding. Instant blow-up attempt on the Silencer, and he ends up dying to the Kunkka cleave, I believe, and then they blow everything on the axe. Essentially, just a free pick that happens, 2 free picks that happens from a deward where the enemy team was just out of position. And as a result of this, they essentially say, okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to see if Axe has buyback. We know Silencer's probably going to be alive by the time we get to their racks, but let's see if Axe has buyback. If he does, they have some disengage tools. So they have the Chen to send back. They have Force Staff on the Lina and, Yule Scepter, Tiny. Like, they have ways to get out. So they're pretty comfortable just, testing the waters here. And essentially, because they took this tower to this much HP earlier, this is a really easy play to make. So what I want to look at right now is just the positioning of Team Secret. This is, once again, one of these things that Tier 1 teams will do differently than Tier 1 teams. A lot of Tier 2 teams will get excited, maybe run up the hill here. Lina might hit the tower. But if you look at Team Secret, we have Zai over here on the Lina. He's not even hitting the tower because he doesn't need to. The Terrorblade needs to hit the tower. Zai not hitting the tower actually comes into play in a second here. Yapsor not hitting the tower, not even close enough to Nisha on this Terrorblade to get Chronosphere. And then mid one in the back as well, because these heroes, they just don't do enough to hit the tower. So it's almost impossible with how these guys are standing to chrono 2 of them. Like, these 2 are the only 2 chrono targets, and then you're not chronoing the Terrorblade. Any other 2 heroes are not going to get chrono together. It's not a large enough AoE. So let's watch. Because of this positioning, because Terrorblade's the only one hitting, that means Terrorblade's the only one that Vici has vision of. So the Chronosphere has to come out onto him. And they have to chrono because they don't want to lose their racks. So they use the chrono. Zai is barely not in it, which allows him to use the Yule Scepter on the Faceless Void. And then the Terrorblade survives barely because of that Yule Scepter on the Faceless Void. He sunders the Lina, and that because Lina, of course, doesn't care. She has a really low HP pool. And the Force Staff from Zai was able to save Nisha on this Terrorblade. So very easily executed siege simply because their positioning was really, really good and because they took this advantage earlier. So now, with Axe respawning in 17 seconds, they probably need to get out. There's no reason to fight this. They know that Vici is going to look to fight, and they may as well just run and try to take a bunch of other objectives. So let's watch what they do. I'll go player perspective for Nisha. So they try to do something on the Void, but he actually jumps away somehow. And so all they do is they back off and take the Shrine. So you can see that Axe is spawning. But the thing is, if you were just fighting on their high ground, you know that the entire enemy team is positioned in this area. So in order to reposition to defend this tower, or this Shrine, I suppose is what it is, they would need to, literally hack the game. It's not possible. Look where all of these guys are positioned. And as a result of this, but by the exact same logic, Secret decides to take this bottom tier 1. So instead of just backing off because it would be 5v5, and that's the natural impulse in Dota, they say, we're going to take more. They, even without the Metamorphosis, go to take this tier 2, just because they know that the enemy team is going to be positioning elsewhere. They already sacked this tower. Potentially, there could be a smoke wraparound happening or something, but look at their positioning. They would actually see this happen. And the reason that they're okay with taking 1, 2, 3, 4 objectives, and they actually end up getting more, is because Chronosphere was forced by the fact that they went into this high ground. So honestly, what you could argue is that the most important thing about taking this high ground here is not that they got the tower. That's great because it allows them to take the shrines, and it's a goddamn tier 3. But it's more so that Chrono was used, which means they can back off, take this without worrying about the enemy teams being in position because they can't be, and then take this once again without worrying about the enemy team's position, and then take this because there's no Chronosphere up. So essentially, one single fucking pickoff on the Silencer into a pickoff on Axe resulted in this, and this objective. And now they take a smoke up to the top lane. They don't actually get anything from the smoke in terms of kills, but it doesn't matter because that allows them to reposition to take this tower. So they're about to get not 4, but 5 objectives from one single pickoff. That is insane. So here is where they kind of make their first real mistake. They're trying to siege this really safely because they know that the Chronosphere is up. So this is where you can see them just playing a lot differently than when they were just running at these towers. They're playing a lot less ballsy now. And even with them playing a lot less ballsy, they actually end up losing a bunch of heroes here just because they're fighting into a Chronosphere and they're fighting into an area that Vici has repositioned to. So Vici's actually perfectly confident fighting this. They get the global off. There's a bit of a botched initiation. Chronosphere comes out with the egg onto 2 cores. This is basically the perfect fight for Vici because Secret took it when on Vici's terms. And this, in my opinion, is a pretty good demonstration of why they were able to take all of these objectives. It's because Vici wasn't able to get into position to defend those objectives, but this is the kind of punishment for getting overzealous and fighting when they actually are in position. They actually end up losing Yapsor here as well. But the thing is, what really matters here is that because of one single pickoff and understanding what they can get from it, they being Team Secret, they pushed their limits, got 5 objectives, and even though they just lost 2 cores and then Yapsor on Tiny, who's a very important support hero, they still have a 7k gold advantage, and now they have this huge, massive map advantage from all of these objectives that they took. So you see them that they essentially got overzealous, but that's because they're making these really tough calculations of what they can take off the back of that pickoff, and this was a little bit too much trying to go for this one. But in any case, it's still worth it with how much they got, and it's absolutely insane in my opinion because in a pub, you might see like that pickoff results in 1 tower. In a tier 3 game, that pickoff results in a tower, maybe a kill. You might get wiped. You might back off and take the shrine, but maybe 2 things. But with Team Secret, it's 5 goddamn objectives and a repositioning on the map to an entire opposite side, which is absolutely, absolutely insane. And then after this, the game is just kind of over. There's a huge net worth lead on the side of Secret. They have a Terrorblade. And just to kind of finish this out here, we can watch. They essentially just run down mid, kind of slow siege, pop the meta, see what they can get. And it happens that they can actually get the racks. Enemy team not looking to really contest them. And the rest of this game is just kind of Team Secret playing typical late game Dota. But the reason that they were able to put themselves in this position was because of those decisions that they made in the early game to take a lot when they were given a little.